Aston Martin race team has been talking about selling a big part of their team to one of F1's most important partners called Aramco. After some meetings that happened in Saudi Arabia, these talks got even more serious because Aramco is ready to make big offers to some important people from Red Bull Racing Team. With all of this happening, and thinking about how Aston Martin has been doing okay sometimes and badly other times since 2023, we might wonder if Lawrence Stroll will give up on his dream of making his son a world champion. And more importantly, does Aramco have what it needs to make the best dream team in Formula One history? Aston Martin is said to be talking about a deal to sell ownership of the team to Aramco, which is a huge company that has been part of the sport since 2020 and has helped F1 grow in the Middle East. The company has put a lot of money into the sport during some really tough money times, like the 2020 COVID pandemic, and now they want to be even more involved. What better way than buying an F1 team that already exists, since they have a close friendship with Aston Martin? And these talks were also brought up at the end of 2023 when Lawrence was thinking about selling the team after his son was reportedly looking for his way out of the sport. It's safe to say that Aramco will have the best chance and be the favorite to quickly buy out Aston Martin. The question is, how much of the team is Lawrence ready to sell? Right now, he did give up a small part to Arctos partners back in November, so it's clear that selling a piece of the team is not really that crazy of an idea. It's just a matter of how big the piece is that's being talked about in the news. And that's what's bothering everyone's minds for sure. Lawrence is a businessman, and as long as he makes money from the sport and has a job for his son, making this move would go against his business interests. But then again, Lance isn't really getting great results, and most of the good results came from Fernando's racing. Fernando could leave the team for Mercedes starting in 2025, and the spot that Fernando would leave behind would be hard to fill. This is especially true when you have to compete against the owner's son, who, while not helping much with making the car better and faster, could be real trouble for your career if you find yourself racing with him at certain racetracks. With this in mind, the goal of Aston Martin would be to bring a really good driver to race alongside Lance. This would then make it clear how much Lance needs to get better to keep his seat, and more importantly, how important it is that his father owns the team. This could be one of the things that top drivers would ask for if they want to move to Aston Martin, a team that has been moving away from Mercedes more and more and has been working on their own independent path. And this is where Aramco is ready to step in. This is a company that made $121 billion in 2023 alone, so buying out Aston Martin, something that is rumored to be worth around $2 billion, is definitely just pocket change for them. You would normally expect them to make huge moves from day one, which is exactly what the rumors have been saying. If Aramco stepped in to take control of Aston Martin, apart from giving both Newey and Verstappen blank checks for them to write their wanted salary on, Aramco will focus on signing high-profile engineers and leaders that would make them instant championship winners from 2026 onwards. We must remember that Honda will be joining them in the engine department. We must not forget the success that the Japanese car makers had with Red Bull and how much knowledge they would bring to Aston Martin. So even if everything stays the same, 2026 is set to be a massive improvement for the Silverstone-based team, which has already worked on separate buildings from Mercedes, like the wind tunnel and the computer testing factories. When reporting about this matter happening in the first place, Formula Uno wrote that Aramco looked at whether it was possible to make certain moves and give blank checks for future deals. In this situation, Red Bull's heavy hitters are in their sights. These include the three-time world champion Max Verstappen and engineering genius Adrian Newey. The fact that these two are seen as possible targets shows just how much has changed in recent months. Formula One's spending limit doesn't include the salaries of the three most senior people in the team and the drivers as well. And if you think that these reports are written based on fake rumors and casual talk around the racetrack, it's worth mentioning that high representatives from Aramco held talks with Lawrence Stroll and the leadership of Aston Martin in Jeddah, which is the race in the home country of Aramco. According to reports, this has been planned a long time ago, and this is the place where the Saudi Arabian oil company could have the biggest impact on Lawrence changing his mind and for once letting somebody else lead the team apart from him. Now it's clear that this will be a huge challenge for Lawrence, because there isn't a situation where he's going to earn billions of dollars and still remain in charge. And if he sees Aramco turning the future of Aston Martin around and making them championship winners, then he'll be viewed as the weak leader that failed to do so, because of poor communication and leadership skills. There is, however, an option that has been talked about between both parties where Lawrence would be giving up a controlling share to Aramco for a reasonable amount of money, and the Saudi company would run the team, but they wouldn't be able to make decisions on their own. This would be more or less similar to how Red Bull runs now, with both sides having a say in the F1 team's decisions. However, Red Bull is a bigger brand that covers multiple sports, while Aramco would focus only on the Formula One world, meaning that the focus would be much easier to accomplish and the results would be easier to achieve than originally expected. On top of that, they have an ace up their sleeve, which is Honda joining them from 2026 onwards. We all know that Verstappen loves working with a Japanese car maker, and when talking about this matter, Formula Uno reported how this could play very well in favor of the Saudi oil company. As they continued, this situation gives him the support of a car maker, which is a basic ingredient for winning in Formula One. From the perspective of Max Verstappen's team, having Honda could only be positive. Even Lawrence admitted that until his team gets engines from Mercedes, there's little to no chance that they could beat them, let alone the teams ahead of the Silver Arrows like McLaren, Ferrari, and Red Bull. What he did is worth a standing ovation. He got Honda's engine from 2026 onwards and made sure that his team would be using the same setup as the most successful team in the current time period, although the success of Red Bull is mainly hiding behind the airflow work of their car. Following this thinking, Aston Martin did make some big changes in their leadership. Starting with Dan Fallows as their technical director, the team is more and more likely to be making big steps towards bringing themselves closer to Verstappen and the podiums in the following period. That, however, might need the financial support of Aramco, not just because Lawrence doesn't have the needed money, but because he's a small fish compared to the industry that Aramco is in, and because the influence that this Saudi company has in the sport goes well beyond Lawrence's control. As for Verstappen, the main goal of the new future team of Aramco and Aston Martin, he did say that there's no need to leave Red Bull now and he would love for all the key people to remain in that position, including Marco and Horner. However, the answer was said in such a diplomatic way that it's easy to assume that unless something crazy happens, Verstappen would be smart to keep his seat in the Austrian team and focus on the 2026 changes. When I say something crazy, I mean a situation where Horner would be promoted to the CEO of the team and take over Mintzlaff's position, or Marco would lose his job, something that Verstappen openly admitted would affect his position in Red Bull as well. But then again, Aston Martin would have to beat their current supplier of engines and gearboxes, Mercedes, for a signature of Verstappen, because if it's clear that the current three-time world champion is open to leaving the Austrian team, the Silver Arrows would to do anything they could to fill the gap that Hamilton left behind. To be honest, apart from Verstappen and Alonso, there aren't any other drivers who could continue where the seven-time world champion left off. More importantly, to bring the team back to their glory days, which is exactly why Wolff said that the main goal would be to sign Verstappen if they get the opportunity. The Austrian team principal went on to say that while Horner remains in charge of Red Bull, anything is possible, so we shouldn't be saying no to any possible situations regarding the replacement of Hamilton. With all of this in mind, do you think that Aramco has what it takes to complete a buyout of Aston Martin? And more importantly, do you think that they will make the situation of Verstappen and Newey joining the team a reality? Let us know in the comments below.